Hey, what is going? I am Zombie Fishers, aka Kyle. I've got Zombie John with me as always. And as a guest today, I have Mr. Robin Roberts, who plays Genestealer Cults. How you doing, Robin? GSC for life. Nice.
Good.
Um,
Always good.
we are going to be discussing your experience at LVO. We are also going to be talking Genestealer Cults because I know nothing about them. And I figured we could have the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that was, I don't know how many years in a row, you were like #1 for Genestealer Cults.
A few times, yeah.
I know he's not gonna brag about it, but he is a really good player. So we're definitely gonna get some good insight here. John, what's up, man? How you feeling?
I'm dying.
Yeah, I know, dude. I'm still getting it over myself. My wife, I'm pretty sure I just gave it to Corey too. So now she's sitting on the couch dying. So
Oh no.
Yep.
It's spreading the sickness, much like the Genestealer Cults. That's what they
Ooh,
do.
nice plug-in. Love it, dude.
And zombies.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's
yep. Very
zombies, Genestealer Cults. Do we want to talk about their lore real quick before we get into the actual thing that everyone cares about, the competitive play?
Yeah, we'll let you do your thing, I guess. We'll let you talk about.
So
Hit me with it.
Genestealer Cults are kind of like the heel in a lot of the books. Almost every world you go to, there's like shifty stuff going on, and it's usually like a Genestealer cult or a Chaos cult. It's a cult for sure. They do love cults in the books, but with Genestealer Cults, so essentially, like when a world's getting taken over by a Tyranid swarm, one of the Tyranids will actually implant one of the people that's trying to escape with something that alters their genetic code and kind of starts changing them subconsciously in their future, and it changes genetically their future generations. So like it'll like basically capture them, but then let them go, and the person won't remember anything. They'll escape to another world. Once they get to another world, they'll procreate as humans do, and each generation will become a little bit more and more not human, and
Tyranny.
they're all linked psionically. And they'll start doing like little things, like they'll start taking over infrastructure. They'll start, just causing little bits of chaos here and there. And eventually, once it gets strong enough, about like 4 generations down, they'll start to psionically contact the Hive Fleet and try to get them to come there and take over the planet after they've already destabilized the area. It's pretty funny because like some of the generations, like once you get further down the line, like 4th generation, you'll have like a little extra arm or something. And people in the Imperium's like, oh, that's just a sub-dweller. Like they don't always go to Tyranids as the reason why. They're just like, oh, that's just some inbreeding. That's common because it is kind of common
Live
for
in toxic environments.
yeah. they kind of like write it off as like, oh, this is normal. It's just a little third arm, a little bladed hand there. Nothing too crazy. But it's funny though, they worship them like gods, and their whole goal is for the hive mind to come there and like devour them so they can be one. Because they're biomass,
Well, and
and they want to become one with the one with the hive mind.
they don't know that they're gonna die too, right? Like they think that
Some do, some don't.
Yeah, the ones higher up, no. The ones lower down that are just like they don't know.
think
They're
they're
just blindly
fighting for
worshiping.
liberation.
Yeah,
They don't know they're fighting to be lunch.
it is. They are fun though.
Yeah, and they've got some good stuff on the Warhammer app that deals with the whole Blood Angels series is based off of Genestealer Cults. So that was actually a pretty cool little thing that they put out.
Right. The higher ups think there's no greater purpose than to become one with the biomass.
Yeah.
So they're accepting of their fate, and it's the other ones that when the planet fall happens, they start to freak out and start to fight back a little bit.
Yeah, they're like, wait, this isn't what I signed up for. What the fuck?
This isn't my cult.
At least that's what I say whenever I pair into a Tyranid player. I was like, here we are thinking we were fighting for you to come liberate us, and now I got to turn around and fight you because you can't keep your paws off me.
Yeah, no, that's great. Honestly, man, like they have some of the more fun lore, I'll say. Obviously, orcs being way up there, but Genestealer Cults, I love it. I love the idea of them taking over the infrastructure and all the politics and everything like that, just to be like, well, we're signaling our hive. Were you saying psionically or psychically, by the way?
Like it's a part of the communication. Like blanks can interfere with their connection and cause them to be disrupted.
Got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you usually get a pure strain on the planet that evolves into a patriarch, which is a broodlord. And then he really gets the cult going by basically brainwashing them psychically.
Yeah.
I just wanted to welcome everybody to the stream really quick. What's going on? Vicious, always good to see you. George, you're lame. I have you in the background. You probably can't. Oh, nope, you can see him. Jim, always good to see you, bud. And I am subbed to the Warhammer Plus app constantly. I have been for since it came out, so there's nothing wrong there. Isn't it adorable how Kyle and John are wearing matching headphones? Are we? Did you get the Steel series?
No, I got the PS Pulse, dude.
Oh yeah, so nope, I'm better. But anyway,
mine are different. Mine are better looking.
And just so you guys know in chat, I know there's going to be, you guys are probably going to hate it, but I have disabled a good portion of all of the redeemables because I am actually super interested to hear what Robin has to say. And I know that you guys are a bunch of trolling, fun people to hang out with, but the last time we were doing this, I was getting trolled. They weren't luckily, we were being nice to the guy that was talking. But I definitely want to hear what's going on. So most of them have been disabled. But that being said, Genestealer Cults. So how long have you been playing them? Why do you like them? And I know there were some recent changes to some nerfs that they've gotten, and how are we feeling about that?
First, been playing them since, I don't know, 2014, 15, something like that.
Nice.
So 10 years. I was drawn to them because I had read one of the better players in the world saying they were impossible to play and you had to be really smart to play them. I was like, well, that sounds like me. And then as I got into it, I was like, oh, I like this. They don't really play Warhammer. They play a different game.
True. Very true.
And it's very frustrating for your opponent to expect they're going to line up and play Warhammer. And you're like, nope, I'm playing Gotcha Hammer. What was the other question? Oh, nerfs. God, the rules constantly change. As soon as they get a good update and they become powerful, somebody will go win a super major with them, and then they immediately nerf them back into the dirt.
Right.
Because they're not allowed to be that good.
Someone other than Space Marines doing well? No thanks.
Well,
no.
oh, go ahead.
So
Sorry.
yeah, but we can talk about it. There's been a lot of nerfs. I think the hardest nerf for me was really a nerf for the entire game, and that was no more 3-inch deep strike. But it wasn't just GSC. That was any army that had a 3-inch deep strike. You no longer have it. It's now 6, and that was a critical tactic. The way I played my Genestealer cult that I'm still adjusting to, um, because there's nothing better than to take 40 OC and do a 3-inch deep strike and serpentine them across the board and put your opponent on a 0 primary a couple of turns in a row.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of the reason why they did it, because that is hard. That is very hard to deal with. There isn't. I don't think there's any Overwatch in the world that can deal with that.
Well, I will disagree with you there. Like a group of flash gits can take them out,
Oh yeah, orcs. Yeah, for sure.
or Thousand Suns rubric squad with a bunch of flamers. But yeah. So if you weren't a smart player and you didn't screen to prevent that 3-inch deep strike, then I was going to put you on 0 a couple of turns until you just give up the will to live and you want to go play your next opponent. But now that's gone, and it's easy to do a 6-inch screen on objectives. So it's much harder now because now my T3 5-up save, 1 wound squishy dudes have to charge you to get onto an objective.
Right.
Right. And that's not where they want to be. They don't want to be in combat.
Yeah, they just want to sit there and get shot at and come back. Yeah, and you guys can't come back like you were before, right?
Yeah, that mechanic is changed constantly. They change it all the time. When 10th first started in the index, your battle line units just came back automatically. Uh, and that was completely broken. It was just a never, nobody could beat me in that at the beginning.
Right.
Then they changed it to a dice roll. Then they made the dice roll more difficult. And then some GSC players complained that it was too random as to whether you got units back or not. And now they've changed it to you're just allowed a certain number of points to get units back per game, and you have to declare it as the unit dies. So you can get back basically one big unit and one medium-sized unit, or you could get back 4 little units in a game, and it's still valuable. But I liked it the old way. I like the randomness.
Yeah,
I had
the coming back. I mean, because Jim actually put in the chat here, and hey, LJ, how you doing? Good to see you. Jim in the chat asked, "Is it true Genestealers are just more durable guard?" And that question kind of reminds me of 5th edition when guard used to be able to take their conscripts and just like remove the entire. It was like a 50-man conscript, and like an unlimited amount of times in the game you could just replace them like every time. It was ridiculous. I don't remember when
they're the same
Genestealers.
toughness, same save, same wound as guard. For the neophytes, the basic unit. But I don't have a strat to get a full unit back. But that strat's now, I think, once per game for the guard. So,
When you were playing in LVO, was there any armies that like okay? What are your hard counters when it comes to your army specifically?
it's not really as much a hard counter as a play style. If somebody knows how to play against GSC, then it's going to be a battle, and it doesn't really matter what their army is. Um, I think horde armies are more difficult because GSC is kind of a horde army, so horde versus horde can be pretty much whoever goes first has an upper hand.
Right.
Right. And then an army that's just loaded with flamers, loaded with torrent weapons means Overwatch can delete units. And they're easy to delete. They're all squishy. So
Yeah. That was that's kind of been the play style that I've been going with Death Guard, is because I like everything can take flamers in that army. So that was one of the things I was trying to do when I was playing
Yeah, but
Death Guard.
it's those T Suns with the
Yep.
+1 to wound and AP2 where I don't even get a save. You just roll the dice and I pick up models. But I could play around that. So I have a pretty good track record against Thousand Sun. Um, I learned how to play against Death Guard thanks to Drew down in Charleston.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He got me one day and I was like, all right, I see what you did. And then the next time we played, he was like, oh, you're playing this completely different. And I'm like, you getting tabled now, brother. You taught me once. That's something I like to say. I enjoy games I lose more than when I win because I learn
hmm
to be better with every loss.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Was there anything at LVO that you were struggling with? I mean, I know you and I talked earlier. Beside, like there was a couple things, but beside, like actual gameplay wise, like anything overpowered that was just like, dude, there's just no dealing with this.
No, I did not run into anything I felt like was totally broken. Um, once you get to 3-0, 4-0, it's more just good on good, and it really doesn't matter what the army they bring. If the player's good, they're good. And you got to be good, and it's all about strategy and tactics and sometimes luck. Um, so yeah, I always get that question, oh, were the orcs too broken, or was that new Star Shatter too hard for you? And I'm like, nah, it doesn't matter. It's the player. It's who did I draw into? Oh, that dude is a top 100 player in the world. This is going to be a fight.
Yeah.
Or this person I've never heard of and they're not even ranked. It'll probably go pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So
I've said that for a while too. I feel like, I used to say back in the day, like I feel like any list can beat any list if you've got the right pilot behind it. Obviously, I'm not being completely serious when I say that, because I mean there are some lists that's just, it's like you just don't have you just don't have the things that you need in it. But for the most
right, I
part,
say I say any army can beat any army,
right.
not any list. So there's no army that can't win. This army can never beat this army. That's not true. You have to be able to make the right kind of list, understand the game, and play good tactics. And it doesn't matter. But then there are some armies that are stronger for mid-table players, um, like Custodes, for example. If you're not already a top level player, Custodes is a great army to play. It's pretty easy, you know. Hit on twos, save on fours, got a lot of wounds, you know. Try to beat me. But then when you get to the top tables, everybody knows you can just play around the Custodes
Yeah,
because they.
oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say they have so few models. Every time they lose models, it hurts.
Yeah, but they're deceivingly fast, man. I haven't played Custodes. I honestly, like, we've kind of been in a little bubble here. I've just been playing nothing but really World Eaters, Jukari, Death Guard, like the armies that I play, because I haven't been able to make it a tournament. So I'm definitely like really wanting to get out to some tournaments, because I've got to expand, because I haven't gotten a lot of I haven't gotten like any Pariah Nexus in, so definitely need
Oh
to.
wow, you're way behind.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I've been playing at the house and on Tabletop Simulator, but I mean that's about it. So definitely need to broaden the horizons, as it were. But I'm gonna pull up your list here, and if you could just walk us through like how that.
You want to say hi? Hey, I got the one of the top Death Guard players in the world right here. Is
Oh,
Justin.
hey, what's going
Death
on,
Watch.
man?
Death
Yo.
Watch.
Oh,
Death
okay.
Watch.
Yeah,
Was he
he's just popping in, make sure I was all right, because
was we're
Came to purge the filthy Xenos.
the filthy Xenos? Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
We don't like them.
I'm a Xenos player too, so whatever. It's not a big
Yeah,
deal.
well, this is who I get. This is who I practice with most of the time, so it's all his fault.
Well, good to see him. Was he at LVO too?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh,
We were just having fun. You go to LVO. If you go there thinking you're going to make top 8 and you're going to win LVO, you're probably not going to have as much fun because you've already put yourself under a ton of stress. So we just go for the good food and the good friends and having a good time and networking and just laughing and talking about lore and rolling dice and
Yeah.
showing off models, and that's what LVO's for
And
real. I
the
mean,
Vegas trip.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
1,150 people. You got to go there to have fun. Hey, if you get lucky and make top eight, good for you. But do you really want to play that much more 40K?
10 games is a lot.
Yeah, it's
I didn't know about the
ridiculous.
shadow rounds until
Yeah.
it was explained to me.
Thanks.
And I was like, oh, that's not. I can barely play three.
Yeah, exactly. 6 games is a lot. By the end, you're feeling it for sure, but it was definitely a good time. So,
So Justin and I played in the doubles tournament on Sunday, and that's just total cheese. You just have all the fun you want to have there.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, the LVO is a great experience too. I highly recommend if you haven't gone, it's a lot of fun. I mean, you get to after you're done, one of the players that you play against, you guys have a good time. They whoop your ass. They feel bad for you. They buy a drink for you. You go drink at the bar with them and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
Especially,
is.
yeah, especially if you've got people that don't take it super serious, because there are a couple of those, but
There's over 1,100 people, I think, playing. So maybe 50 of them thought they had a chance to win, and all the rest of us were there to have fun.
yeah.
and 49 of them were wrong anyway. So,
Yeah, exactly. And that's how you just kind of start every round. You're like, "Hi, my name's Robin. I'm here to have fun. There's 1,100 people playing here, and only one of them's going to win, and it ain't going to be you or me. So we might as well have a good game of 40K."
I'm gonna put the camera on you guys because we can't actually see.
Justin.
That was
No, just Justin.
totally not even,
He's been called
not
Jesus
even in the
before.
realm.
yeah, what's up, guys? That's it, bro. That's it. I'm locked in on Steve. That's a wrap.
So, no, he's a great Death Watch player. Uh, but I will have to say this while he's here now. On Friday night, I don't know if you were 3-0, but a bunch of us were 3-0. And I invited my boy Mark Hurdle to go have a steak with us. And we sat there and we talked strategy all night. We bought him a steak, and then he went and won LVO. So we just want to take credit for that win.
Yeah, we're not saying we're responsible, but it didn't hurt. That's for sure. I mean, a good steak, a good night's sleep.
Yeah. We had
Can't lose
salt
the
shakers
steak.
on the table, and we're like, when he goes over here, you need to do this. And no, I'm kidding. That didn't happen. But they both play Death Watch, so they definitely talk Death Watch.
Yeah, it was nice cutting up with the top Death Watch player. I knew he was creeping up on the rankings for a while because he had 3 games with Death Watch and he was already like 50 points below like the first couple of people. So I was like, all he's got to do is play one more good game of 40K and he's taking first spot. So I was rooting for him.
Then he went and won the whole damn things, and nobody was cheering louder for him than us when we were playing our doubles tournament. We keep looking up on the screen, and he's winning again, and we're like,
Yeah, couldn't have happened to a better dude. He's an awesome dude, very cool, excellent player. His list was phenomenal, so I couldn't have asked for a better player. And obviously Death Watch, I was rooting for him. So
and he's just glad he didn't play me, or he'd have never had a chance.
beginning of 10th, they were a little bit busted because of some like bolter strat issues.
Yeah,
Then they got like a real big nerf, and the Desolation Marines got cut down to 5. So everybody quit playing them. That's when I picked them up because I like to play what nobody else is playing and the worst ranked faction. So I played them straight through, and then when they got cut out and became Imperial agents, I kept playing them. I just built like an Iron Storm list and called them Death Watch. So I was just real happy that they got the new index back. And overall, I gotta say there was a couple things they lost, but in the end, they got back to kill teams, and I would say they're slightly better now.
slightly better. They won LVO.
Well, I'd say slightly
You
better.
can't give me better than that.
Games Workshop, if you're listening, Death Watch are fine. Just leave them
No
alone.
nerfs needed.
Let us have our glory. Mark's just a really good player. Everybody else did terrible with him,
He
so
is
they're
a really
fine.
good player. Hey, and while he's here, I want to add Justin just became a partner in our store up here in Myrtle Beach, the Game Bunker.
Oh,
So when you
congrats!
walk in the door, if you see Justin here, he's a partner. So if he tells you to get out, you kind of have to listen.
He's the guy that when he says get out, you gotta go.
Well,
You can't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
out
yeah.
today.
He's not just a dude that hangs out at the shop anymore. He put his money where his mouth is, and so
Well, very cool. Congratulations. I just found
Yeah, I
out that
appreciate it.
that they can't hear me. Airman, can you hear me now? Sorry, I'm not trying to take away from that conversation, but I also don't want to be talking and them not hear me either. But
all they need to be able to hear us. That's all
that
that matters.
very true, very true. Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. Well, congrats
Yeah,
on
Robin will talk enough for everybody.
I
so don't
will.
worry.
That is a habit.
There'll be no dead air time with him on stream.
I even write jokes. So I got
Oh,
jokes.
Look, I'm
nice.
about to jet. It was nice to meet you guys. Good luck with the stream and everything. And appreciate the little cameo.
Oh,
So
also, if you don't recognize the voice, you can check him out on YouTube as Warhammer Man.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, yeah. I'm
Yep.
Warhammer Man Studios on YouTube. So
Yeah.
I'll give you guys a shout out too. So
All right, appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good rest of the talk and good luck to you as well.
All right, you too,
Take
brother.
it easy.
All right, take it easy, gents. All right, I'm gonna back up.
All right, you got it.
I'll
Thanks.
catch you later, brother. You want me to leave this open?
Sure. Sorry, didn't want to not introduce him since he
No,
walked into
no,
the room.
no. Absolutely, man. That's awesome. Oh, thank you for doing that. So I got your list pulled up. Could you kind of walk us through how it operates and pretend like you're talking to a 5-year-old?
Sure. I can't see it, but I don't need to see it. I know what's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My LVO list, I have one Ridge Runner with a mortar. That one screens out my back corner, and I use the indirect fire to put an extra AP on some target I'm going to go for in my shooting phase. Although the extra AP also applies in the melee phase, I'm rarely in melee if I can avoid it. I've got two more Ridge Runners with mining lasers. They will usually be deployed on the board at the beginning of the game, but because I get 3 redeploys, I pull them off. And that way I know I got one turn of shooting with them before they might get destroyed. Plus, when they come on the board from reserves, they get sustained hits and ignores cover. So I want those extra buffs at least for one turn before they come on the table. So if you ever see a GSC guy starting with his mining lasers, Ridge Runners on the table, and he doesn't pull them off, then he's probably not playing Host of Ascension, which is the detachment. That detachment gives you sustained hits and ignores cover. So you want to always be coming from reserves to get those buffs, the sustained hits and ignores cover.
Can I interrupt you really? Okay, it's 1 second. I'm sorry, man. What is with these names of these characters that you have here, dude? Oh, I'm so spooky, Sanctus. I miss
Yes.
Dad. I miss Dad Primus.
I miss Dad Primus. That sounds like a fun guy to be around.
So misunderstood, Locust.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's a loner. He's always off by himself.
Is Edgar Benefactus is I know, like I said, I know nothing about Genestealer Cults. I'm assuming Edgar is something you added in there. Or-
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this the
He's just
Is this the Edgar suit from what's it called from Men in Black?
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
No, I put goofy things in my list for my own enjoyment, but also I can tell if an opponent read my list before we play.
Ah,
You
that's
know, if
smart.
we're getting
Man.
ready to play and they're like, "Oh man, the names on your characters are pretty funny." I'm like, "All right, he's gone through my list. He's got a game plan."
That's really
You know,
man. That's big brain stuff right there. I would have never thought to do that.
Yeah, my
'Cause usually
smooth
they'll-
brain over here.
yeah, they'll see the pairing. They probably know somebody who plays GSC immediately. Hey, tell me what I need to do against this list. That kind of thing.
Right.
And then I know they do that because then I walk up to the table and they're like, "I already know you're the number one GSC player in the world. Please don't beat me too bad." They're like, "Come on, man! It's still a dice game. We don't know what's going to happen."
Dude,
Um,
The
Kyle knows that all too well, that
dude,
it's a dice game.
my dice rolls are so bad that and it's kind of a joke on the channel. Like we're actually going to be making a bit about it where we have like we have a new chaos god and it's the dice god. So, because it's so bad, dude.
Thought that was Zinch.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I guess you could say.
You
it's
thought you rolled a 6, but it's a 1.
But continue. I'm
Oh
sorry.
man.
I didn't mean to. I
No,
didn't mean
it's
to
all
cut you
good.
off.
It's all good. So then there's 5 acolytes with mining weapons. They do one thing for me mostly is sit on my home objective, and on a 4+ of my command phase, I can get an extra command point. So they're good for 1 or 2 extra command points a game. And then I tell my opponent, by the way, the dudes behind this wall have anti-vehicle weapons that do flat 3 damage. What I don't tell them is they only get 6 attacks and they hit on 3s.
Mm.
I just tell them that and like, keep that information in the back of your mind. You might want to keep that dreadnought away from my side of the board, that kind of thing. Um, I've got 10 neophytes. They sticky objectives. And there's a lot of missions where you need to, like the ritual, you need to make an objective or terraform, or just that's all they're for. And they usually die pretty quick once they move out from behind the wall. And I've got a 5-man squad of pure strains and a 10-man squad of pure strains. Those have infiltrate. So their job is to go into the middle of the table, 9 inches away from my opponent's line, to keep them from infiltrating or scouting forward to hold them back. And then when I do my redeploys, I try to get them out of harm's way, but I still keep them somewhere in the middle of the board. And I have 2 10-man squads of jackals, which are the bikes with the characters that allow them to shoot and move. And they have a 9-inch scout move.
Mm.
So the plan is if I get turn 1, my pure strains are running into your lines and my bikes are setting up the second wave of lines. And I'm going to try to hold you back in your deployment zone for 2 turns and make it really frustrating for you. If I don't get turn 1, then everybody kind of backs up and waits for you to come forward, and then we just kill whatever comes out. And the bikes have a cool thing on the movement phase. I roll a dice for every bike in the unit, and on a 4+, they do a mortal, capping at 6. So those 2 10-man bike squads are good for like 12 mortals right off the bat in the movement phase.
How does that
And then
mechanic
they can
work?
use
Is that like what they? Because I know I have something similar with Drukari where they fly over a unit and they do mortal wounds.
Yeah, they don't have to fly over you. Just one bike has to get within 6 and visible. And then I roll a dice for every bike in the unit.
Oh man.
Pretty good.
So, and then
Did
you can throw the grenade strat in, and you can get about 15 mortals on your turn 1 movement phase.
That's
Well,
so
movement
gross.
in beginning of your shooting phase.
That's
Yeah, so remember when land raiders were a thing? And
yeah. For
people
like
would like go park the land raider in the middle and go, "Good luck killing it, ha ha ha!" And it's full of blade guard or hell blasters or whatever was inside. So I just run the bikes up, and then I'm like, "I'm going to kill your land raider," and never even shoot at it. And then when your guys get out, I'm going to shoot at them. So
yeah,
did you,
John wanted to play the Land Raider. I think when he first started really getting serious about trying to learn World Eaters, and I'm like, bro, the Land Raider it's a death box, bro. It's not a
yeah,
thing.
it is
they're
not as
still
tough as
good, but they can't do anything about mortals.
yeah.
Cover and armor contempt doesn't do anything for mortals.
Yeah. The
So
one thing I wanted to ask, you mentioned scout move. How in LVO, how prevalent was it for people to like deny scout move with infiltrate? Did you deal with that a lot, or
well, because I also have infiltrate, I can stage my infiltrators to allow my bikes to scout.
see that's something I play World Eaters and we don't have any infiltrate, so it's like if they deny the scout move, I'm kind of like oh no.
Yep. So if I was playing you, I would those my pure strains would deny your scout moves.
Yeah,
Now I know and if you had turn 1, I know you're going to just run into them and kill them, but I'm keeping you off of my line, at least
yeah,
for 1 turn. And now you're stuck in the middle of the board.
yeah. Not a
So
good place to be whenever you're getting shot at.
no, and you're like, well, I killed all your pure strains, and I'm like, okay, that's not the strength of my army. I haven't even gotten to the strength of my army. I mean, the mortals are great.
Yeah,
That's also great for going against like Primarch characters that don't have a feel no pain. Like Gilliman, he doesn't have a feel no pain.
yeah.
So, um, but he gets back up, and then you got to do it to him again. But the strength of my army, as far as damage dealing, are the 3 units of 20 neophytes with the attached characters. One of them has a Primus that gives them full rerolls, and he has an enhancement. I think it's called Chink in the Armor, which gives him lethals on 6s. So when that unit drops, they're sustained and lethal on 6s with full rerolls. But wait, there's more. There's this 1 CP stratagem that changes your crits to 5s. So they're sustained and lethals on 5s with full rerolls. And if I've hit you with the Ridge Runner before they start shooting, you already have AP1 on you and you get no cover. So now my strength 3 no AP gun gets lethals on 5s. And I'm like, okay, it's only strength 3 no AP, but it's AP1, you don't get cover and you need to make 24 saves.
Ooh,
Yeah, that's the weight of
Yeah.
dice there. Yeah, for sure.
that's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of
It's a lot
damage.
of
That's a lot of
right.
damage.
And then after they make those saves, and like now I'm gonna roll the good guns. Now I'm gonna start rolling the guns with D3 damage and D6 plus 1 damage, and all the way up to AP4. And then the Benefictuses, they don't give the units rerolls, but they do give them lethals. So you can get sustained and lethals on 5s for 2 more turns if you stage your units properly. So for 3 turns in a row, you can deep strike and get sustained and lethals on 5s with a large shooting unit. So that's the real strength of the army. So my drop turn, you might think you have control of the board and you can find out half your army's gone. There's also 10 more acolytes with the bombs that were so good when the index first came out. They were like strength 12, AP2. They were 2 damage, but they were D6 plus 3 blast per guy with the bombs. And you could delete what was it? Remember the possessed bomb of 20 possessed in chaos that was just hard to kill? And my bomb guys will just kill the entire squad.
Yeah.
Uh, but now they're strength 9, AP2, 2 damage, D6 blast. So they're not as strong. They're at that break point of 9. So even a T5 model, I'm wounding on 3s instead of 2s.
Mm.
And there's no more +3. So you could roll like 7 shots instead of like 30 shots.
Yeah.
But I stick a Primus in with them for the rerolls also, and mainly use them to target squads of infantry. If I need to delete some infantry out of a corner somewhere that's being a pain in my butt, they'll come in and do that.
Dude, I bet you this has no problem. You were talking about Custodes earlier. That's so many rolls.
Yes. And then I've got 2 free range characters, the Locus and the Sanctus. The Locus can attach to a unit and he gives that unit fights first, but nothing in my unit really wants to be in melee. And then the Sanctus, I gave the Sanctus the dagger instead of the rifle because the dagger gives him an ability where he can't be overwatched. So all I use him for is to deep strike somewhere and do an action.
Okay.
Like, oh, I've got containment or some sabotage or establish locus. Just deep strike him, do the action, and they're like, "How many wounds does he have? 3. I'm gonna overwatch him. You can't." Oh well, I guess you just score points then. I'm like, "Yep, you can kill him next turn, but you can't kill him right now."
Dude,
So
I love this play style, man. This like you think because it upon looking at it, it just doesn't look like it would do this much, you know? Like it's kind of crazy. It's like I know exactly what you're saying where it feels like yeah, you feel like you're owning the board and then all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, but I can do this." And then because I have this, it does this. And then throw on a couple CP and now you're taking all these mortal wounds. It's just deceivingly strong for sure.
yeah, GSC for several editions has always been all about layering buffs. Like they're terrible, but once you layer the buffs, they go off. Before it used to be psychic powers and auras with characters. but that's kind of gone now. So they wrote it in a different way. And then when you realize those three 20-man blobs of neophytes are 40 OC, and you can get them onto an objective, it's like, sure, they're easy to kill, but there's 20 of them.
Yeah.
They heal in my command phase. And there's a strat in that detachment. If you shoot at an infantry unit after you've shot for 1 CP, I can put that unit back into reserves, which means when they hit the table again, they've got sustained and lethals again.
Ooh.
So I really want him to shoot at my unit with the Primus because he's that's the most deadly unit. And my smart opponents realize I'm never going to shoot at that unit because I don't want you to drop and have all those buffs again. So I'm going to try to charge you and kill you in melee. And I'm like, all right, but they're pretty good in Overwatch because he's still lethal and he still rerolls all hits. So, I mean, not lethal. I'm sorry. Still rerolls all hits. The Benefactuses are still lethal. So I'm not afraid of playing any list. It's just more about the opponent and how well they know how to play against me.
Yeah, moves and counter moves.
Yeah. So, like I said, playing another horde army can be tough because if that other horde, say it's orcs, or it could be guard, or there's even a horde version of Space Marines if you want to play it. I played a guy named Sasha. He's an excellent player, top world class player. And we played last round in a GT. We're both doing pretty good. And I look at his list, and it's a bunch of MSU Space Marine units and some rhinos and stuff. And I'm like, what is this? It doesn't have a lot of damage dealing. I don't understand this list. And he gets first turn, and by the time he's done with his movement phase, I'm like, I'm screwed because he measures out all along the edges of the table to block out my 6-inch deep strikes. And then he's measuring between his units at least so that he's at least 12 inches between units. So there's no space between his units to deep strike. And when he's done with his movement, I'm relegated to part of my deployment zone. And I got half my army off the table and nowhere for them to go.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, got me.
yeah. That's what I was gonna
And
say.
he laughs.
Yeah, your footprint's huge. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And he laughs and he goes, all right, what would you have done different? I'm like, well, obviously, the only thing I could do was line up on the line and hope I go first.
Yeah,
I have to.
he played Black Templars.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at his list right now.
Yes. Um, Great guy, super smart guy, fun to play against. And it's that kind of match where you get beat, but you're like, I learned so much in this match, man. I'm going to give you a hug. You got me this time. You won't ever get me again like that, but you got me this time. And I'm just happy to have learned a lesson.
Yeah, this is a lot.
During LVO, this is a little off topic. Did you stick more towards fixed objectives or did you do tactical?
I used to always do fixed, and then at Pariah Nexus came along and just kind of killed fix. Fix just is really hard to do fix now and be successful.
Yeah.
Prior to LVO, at another GT the week before, my last round I took fixed because my opponent had 3 great unclean ones at Rodigus and 2 defilers.
Bring
And
it down territory.
bring it down and assassinate. And he had that detachment where I'm going to constantly be taking battle shock tests.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm taking battle shock tests in every command phase. I'm taking battle shock tests in every fight phase. He's like, yes. I'm like, all right, bring it down and assassinate. And he's like, one. I'm like, well, first off, I'm not even going to bother to do actions because I'm just taking battle shock tests. And secondly, for every one of your great unclean ones I kill, that's 4 points for assassinate and 6 for bring it down. They're worth 10 points apiece. And if I'm not killing them, I'm losing the game anyway.
Yeah.
Very fair.
I
Now
had
I'm
the
just now I'm
the
just all in and killing you, and I don't have to worry about anything else.
I had the displeasure of playing against that list against our friend Cody. We played a tabletop game and I was playing Jukari and yeah, he had basically the same exact build and he just did he had a bunch of the poxbringers and they force the battle shocks and it was just
Mm-hmm.
I definitely underestimated how big of a deal that is. It was very
Yeah.
frustrating to play against.
Take a battle shock test at -2 before you try to score primary. You're like, this is so frustrating. I just have to table you to win this game.
Yeah, I lost terribly in that game. So
Well, I won my game to much to my opponent's surprise. He didn't think I was going to be able to kill his great unclean ones, but he found out what the neophytes do with lethals and sustained on 5s.
Yeah, that's a pretty nasty wombo combo.
yeah,
I'm like, look, man, your great unclean ones just have a 4-up invul save. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, cool, 50/50s. Here we go. Make, 47 saves.
yeah.
But
When
I'm T12. I'm like, lethals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not
uh,
trying to roll. I'm not trying to wound you, baby. I'm just trying to hit you.
There is something kind of comical about a mass of Genestealer cults just killing a great unclean one.
Little
With
guardsmen just killing him with a weight of fire.
yeah, they're just like, just keep shooting. That's our strategy. Just keep shooting at him. See
You
how it
have to,
turns
or he'll
out.
eat you.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a tough list to deal with. In fact, with my Drukari, like I'm still struggling to figure out how I'm going to deal with it. I dabbled with the idea of the Tantalus Mortal Wound Bomb. I thought I was super smart for thinking of it, and then like come to find out, it's not popular for a reason because it's just impossible to hide that freaking Tantalus.
Yeah, you can't.
And you need to dump
And
2
then,
CP in it every time to get it to actually to get the bomb off. And if you roll like I do, you still don't get anything. So
You get double ones. That's impressive.
and then the bikes in my list, they can move after they shoot. And anytime you can shoot in a move in a non-movement phase, you have an advantage.
yeah,
So that's it. The list is my theory of list building when I'm coaching here at the game bunker is your first 1,000 points should be designed to score you points. How are you going to get around the board? How are you going to hold primary? How are you going to do actions? The next 1,000 points should be to kill things, but it can't be focused on killing armor or killing infantry. You got to try to, make it 50/50. And you can't build a list skewed for one particular meta. You need to be ready for whatever. Uh, and then that's it. That's my list building theory. Give yourself tools, give yourself some lethality, and then play good strategy.
it's kind of crazy to think about the evolution of this game. Coming from playing since I started in like late 2009, early 2010, I think.
Where it
And
was just about killing.
yeah, it was just about killing. What we used to do because, you know, Space Marines were middle of the board. So when me and my buddy used to build lists, it was like, okay, can this deal with a Space Marine army? And it was like, I have enough anti-tank, I have enough anti-infantry. Yes, it can deal with a Space Marine army. And it was like, okay, well, that's a decent list. You might just need to ignore, one of the things I used to do, because I used to try to prepare for everything, but, like Tyranids with all their flyers back then, it was like, well, I'm just going to count that as a bad matchup and just move on. You know what I mean? Because there just wasn't enough to deal with it back then. But now it's like there's so much more to take into account now.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say prior to Pariah Nexus with the first missions, when it was deploy teleport homers, I would almost always do behind enemy lines and deploy homers. Almost always. And I knew I could score 38 to 40 points in secondaries every game, and my opponent couldn't stop me because both of those score at the end of my turn. So as long as I had ways to just keep deep striking, and I had a 3-inch deep strike strat, and then I had a character, the Kellamorph had an ability that he could deep strike within 3 inches of any infantry within 3 inches of enemy models. So I could just deep strike an infantry unit 3 inches, deep strike the Kellamorph next to him. I got 2 units behind enemy lines. One of them deploys homers, and the other one shoots. And that was 8 points. Next turn, 8 points. But
How,
they took that away, so you have to retool and come up with something else. And then now it's established locus, and there's no more 3-inch deep strikes. So you're like, all right, so fixed is almost dead unless you just get that matchup with a lot of characters.
mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
I'm
and
playing Thousand Suns, I might like, you know what? I might do Establish Locus and Assassinate because every unit you've got has at least one character in it.
Airman said nonsense. You tailor your list to beat Kyle's Death Guard or Drukari. Yeah. So Airman used to be in our little meta, and he used to hate playing against my Drukari back in like 5th and 6th edition. Back when
Right.
witches, you were able to take, each witch was able to have a haywire grenade. So I just used to
I
throw a whole
remember
bunch.
Haywire.
Yeah, I used to throw a whole bunch of them in venoms, and just they would just 5 of them would take out any tank in the game pretty much back then.
Yeah, it was anti-vehicle something too, right? Didn't matter what the vehicle's toughness was.
Yeah, no, it didn't matter. It was like you get like 2 attacks, and on 4s they do damage that they weren't able to save. So it was different. Like the wording was different back then. It wasn't mortals, but
Yeah, I think it was just on your hit roll too. You didn't even have to do a wound roll.
yeah, it's been a long time. I actually have the book still somewhere around here from 5th edition.
Yeah, I
But
remember. I remember the Haywires. I remember the Harlequins having a bunch of Haywires too.
so about the Pariah Nexus, how do you feel? I personally, I love the fact that they're changing everything up. Like it's like every 3 months, it feels like they're kind of changing the rules up. Now, 'cause from a standpoint of having to buy more models, I'm not a fan of, but I do like the idea of having to constantly change how you look at, how you're going to execute your army on the play. I'm struggling with words right now, but um, how do you feel about how much Games Workshop is changing up the rules? Basically, I think is what I'm asking right now.
So I'm a fan of them trying to balance the game based on tournament results. Because I'm a tournament player. I know the majority of people that play 40K don't play in tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
So they might not like that. I do have a mixed feeling, however, about rules changes because there are uh, some of the players are play testers and they have already play tested these rules changes for a while and provided their input. And then it gets dropped on the rest of us, and we've got like a couple of days to figure it out before the next tournament. Uh, so I think it puts the casual competitive player, if that's a thing, at a little bit of a disadvantage to the guys that play, let's say, for a living. But that's okay. I mean, you've already accepted that. Well, I'm not playing Warhammer for a living, so I'm still here to have fun. So in that regard, I'm glad that they try to keep the game balanced. Where it can get out of whack is, the best player in the world going into LVO was Ennis Wilson. He decided to play Genestealer Cult because he figured out what I had already figured out, that in Rusted Claw it was pretty broken. He wins 3 super majors in 1 month, and then they nerf it into the ground. And I'm like, but you nerfed it for one player.
Yeah.
He
You nerfed
played.
the entire army for one person because it's not like they were winning all over the place. It was just him and me a little bit,
Yeah,
but
so
that's okay.
yeah, they're changing the meta based on, I guess, some of the more popular
Yeah,
people that play.
and then they nerfed it and he quits playing them, and now the rest of us GSC players are stuck with the nerf that he handed us.
How shitty is that?
Well,
It's like,
I
all right,
told
I'm
him that.
done.
I jokingly laughed with him at LV. I wanted to pat him on the back. Thanks for the nerf, and then you just ditch the army and move on. He's like,
Yeah,
"Well, I come to win."
I was looking at it because you said Genestealer Cults, and I'm looking at it, he played Blood Angels, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, he played Blood Angels, so he's probably gonna end up making something nerf on the Blood Angels and just
Yeah,
switch
well,
to
I
something
said
else.
like, "Oh, you switched out of GSC." He's like, "Well, I like to try to win LVO." Yeah, yeah, because they got nerfed. Thanks to you. Thanks, bud.
How do you feel about the? I can hear in your voice that you're not a fan of the change for the 3-inch deep strike to the 6-inch deep strike.
Um, Look, I'm okay with it as long as you take that away. You got to give me something back, right? The Gene Stealer cult, the bulk of its army is T3 5-up save. That's it.
I feel your
One
pain,
wound.
dude. I feel your pain.
So that 3-inch deep strike was kind of my gotcha. that's how I could play the primary game. I wasn't really playing primary by holding, I was playing primary by denying. But you've taken away that ability for that army to deny you primary. So what did I get in return? What replaced that? And so far nothing. If it had been like, oh, you can use go to ground for free. Okay, that's something. At least I got a 6-up invul save now. So that's how I feel. Like you take something away, but you didn't give anything back. So you made this army arguably harder to play at a high level. But that's okay. That's the fun of the game. You got to retool, come up with something different, and try it until you find something that works.
Yeah, and
You do feel like
oh,
every
go.
time you get a list and you're like, okay, I got it. I got the list. This is the list I'm playing. Then they change the rules and you're like, I got to start all over.
Yeah, I mean, and it definitely sucks when you have been practicing something and then they change it with just enough time where it's allowed in the tournament that you're going to, and you're like, motherfucker, son of a bitch.
And there's always some big rules change, like 6 weeks before LVO.
Yeah, I feel like that's such an easy fix. Just save rule changes for after the major tournaments, especially like a big name like LVO, and people are practicing consistently for it. Why change it up? Like a month or two
as
beforehand.
a stockholder in Games Workshop, I can tell you why.
Oh yeah, that's a
They want to
very
sell
fair.
models.
I did not know it was publicly traded.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
dude.
I mean it's not on the American Stock Exchange; it's
Oh,
on
okay, I
the
got
British Stock Exchange. But I bought stock a long time ago, and I bought stock just so I could complain and say, "But I'm a stockholder, so you have to listen to my complaints."
you. You buy like 0.1 share. You have to listen to me. My
You
opinion
have to
matters.
listen to me now. I'm a stockholder, damn it. I'm going to call for a vote of the board.
Yeah, dude,
But
BlackRock and Vanguard own a portion of GW, so yeah, it's 100%.
during COVID, they were the top exporting company in England
Not a surprise at
because
all.
everybody
Yeah.
else shut down. And the secret to that was most of their sales and money comes out of America.
Yeah.
So they're a
100% believe
British
that.
company, and during COVID, all these British companies were just closed, and they were still humming along in America. So they became like one of the top companies in England during that period of time, and people started to notice them on the stock market.
Yeah, dude, COVID blew up Warhammer for sure. People were bored at their house. They're like, dude, what
Yeah,
can I do?
I need
And,
time to get
hobbies.
into that pile of shame.
But as
But
far
yeah,
as
that's why they do that. So you have to run out and buy some more models before LVO.
no way,
Yeah.
Games Workshop doesn't do anything underhanded
There's,
like that. Stop
there's no
that
way
talk.
that's a business
Underhanded, that's a
practice.
solid business
That's a
model.
solid. No, very true. Very true.
Their whole business model is built on keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, the only thing I think, like, people complain about Games Workshop a lot, as we all know. One of the only times that I've really gotten irritated with them was, and I'm not even a World Eaters player, but when they released 9th edition World Eaters Codex, like 2 months before they dropped 10th edition.
Oh, even worse, Demons came out even later than that. I think that was the very last one that was dropped, correct?
Was
for
it?
9th?
I don't remember.
Yeah, like a month later, it switched over to 10th, and Demons had theirs for like a month or 2 months, maybe at most.
My only real complaint is I wish they would hire an American editor before they publish any rules.
Why? Because
I'm like,
they're not
you
vague
could
at
say
all.
this in one sentence and it would be very clear.
The unit that you did not shoot
Yeah.
at while not shooting at
Yeah,
is the unit targeted by this ability.
My favorite is
And
when
you
it's
just-
like when the attacking unit targets the attacked unit, and I'm like, what what am I reading
Yeah,
here?
just hire an American editor. The rest of the world will thank you. I know your fans in Britain will not like it, but that's okay. That's not where all your money comes from anyway. That, and then as a store owner, I would like to just write some incentives for their warehouse managers to do a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do have one.
Oh, go ahead. No, go.
I was gonna say I do have one question. So I've only played since 9th. And as a fairly newer player, what would you say for 10th edition, the state of the game? Like, how does it feel as far as balance? Like, is it kind of feels like it's the most balanced it's ever been? Like, looking at win rates, a lot of people are sitting at 50%. Is it in a good state?
Yeah. the end of the ninth, I felt like was the best balanced, and then they went right into 10th and unbalanced it. But solid business model.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the difference is now in 10th, they said they were gonna take balancing the game seriously, and they have.
Yeah.
Even if they put something out and it's immediately broken, they will quickly patch it, even if it means they might lose some model sales. Which I imagine has got to be some kind of interesting debate.
Oh,
Yeah.
at their headquarters.
Orc Meganobs are broken as hell. Yeah, they're flying off the shelf, but we have to change it. It's hurting the game. Well, just wait another couple of weeks. We still have some in the warehouse.
We
And
got
then
a couple more orders that need to go through.
And you got the
Yeah.
one guy in the background that's like actually cares about the lore. Like he doesn't care about like the money aspect of
Yeah.
it. And he's like, "What are you doing to my stuff?" Airman said, "Rules hammer is 50% of the fun, though." Very true.
Yeah, it's all good. And then right before LVO, they basically dropped 10.5 edition on us.
Yeah,
It's not called that, but that's what it was. Like everything changed.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I'm like, geez, they just did a 10.5 update right before the biggest tournament in the world. So I'm trying to practice, and I get the first GT I go to practice. I'm like, I don't know anything about anybody's army anymore with all these new Grotmus detachments.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if it sounds broken, it's probably true. And I'm like, all right, I'll just go on that assumption. So I played this one guy. I won't say his army so people can't figure out who it was. But let's just say he gave himself all the buffs and later found out it's situational. It's not constant all the time.
God.
So so when he beat me, my buddy's like, "How did you beat him? You always beat that army." I'm like, "Well, he had this and this and this and this and this constantly." He's like, "No, no, no, no. He only gets this and this condition and then that." And I'm like, "Oh, well, you told me if it sounded broken, just believe him."
If it sounded broken, just believe him.
So,
Use that.
well, you want to turn him in? I'm like, "Look, he probably doesn't know what the damn rule is either. It's all brand new." I mean, I can't blame him.
Yeah, I'm assuming you probably told him though, right?
No, because it was far away. So,
Hmm.
no, I didn't talk to him after that. I don't hold grudges like that.
No,
I give
no.
everybody the benefit of the doubt.
I didn't mean as holding a grudge. I meant more like, "Hey, bro, just so you know."
Hey, next time you might want to, yeah, if I ever see him again, but
Yeah.
I'm just play, have fun. I assume everybody's trying to do their best and just making honest mistakes.
I'm barely literate as is, so whenever I have to read a lot in a very short span of time, probably not the best results.
I have a
I'll use,
habit of reading a rule and then getting excited about what I'm reading and then just stop reading. And then there's like a little caveat at the bottom, and I'm like, and then I get caught up in a game, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, it does say that, doesn't it?
look, I've been embarrassed screwing up rules. When I first switched to Host of Ascension from Rusted Claw, because I liked that enhancement that the Primus gets that gives you lethals. I didn't read the next line that says it's only on the turn you arrive on the board. So here I am playing in a GT. He's arrived on the board. His unit got sustained and lethals. I shot, right? And then it's my next turn and I'm shooting again. And I'm like, okay, I'm picking up lethals again, but it's not sustained. I'm still like killing my opponent. And then he's looking up my rule. And then he goes, hey, bud, you don't get lethals. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he showed it to me. And I'm like, yeah, right there, lethals. He's like, read the next sentence. And I was like, oh, totally sorry, man. I'm going to re-roll all of that. And I went from killing a monolith to doing 4 wounds. I'm like, quite a bit of difference, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
I had a similar experience with the what's it called, uh, the mandrakes from Drukari. For some reason in my brain, I just thought that they were able to deep strike. They actually have infiltrate. You have to pull them out, and then you can deep strike. So I was
yeah.
deep striking turn one for a while, and then found out that I've been cheating the entire time. And I'm like, well, there's
You
that.
just give everybody the benefit of the doubt until they do it twice. Then
Yeah,
you're like, all right,
Yeah.
now it's different.
yeah. Until you get into like dice manipulation, and then you're like, yep, you're gone.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see that player and you'll look in their dice box and you'll see them clearly pick up, they're wounding you on threes and they picked up a couple of twos and tell you the total number, including the twos.
Yep.
And
Oof.
I won't call them out, but now I know. Now I'm like, now I got to question everything you do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Speaking
I
of,
always
go ahead.
I always like to roll my dice in front of people because I tend to roll really well, albeit I do roll very slowly. Kyle knows firsthand. So I like to do it in front of people so they know because it's like not believable
There is no
otherwise.
chance that I think that you would ever intentionally cheat, John. Not only are you a good person, that'll be the only compliment that I give you today,
Ooh, I
but
like that.
you roll so slow that there is definitely no way that anybody could ever misinterpret what you're doing.
They would see it. They would see. I like to shake it a lot. I don't know what that is. It's probably like a little bit of. It's
OCD,
Sexual frustration.
sexual.
yeah. There's probably a lot going on there. I haven't really got to talk to my therapist. We got to work this out. But I roll really slow. I just like shaking the dice. There's something about it that's like super calming, and I'm like, I might not
Yeah.
be doing good in the game, but I'm rolling these dice
Well,
good.
my eyesight has gotten worse as I get older, so I will say, hey, will you read that card to me and make sure I'm getting this rule right, or please help me pick out the ones and twos because there's a glare on these dice. Um,
Yeah.
so I do the best I can, but we all make mistakes, so it's just whether you intend to make mistakes
Yeah,
or
it's all about the intent.
yeah, of course.
How was
And we all
oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, man.
At LVO this year, um, the how I mean, how was it ran? I mean, I'm assuming it was ran really well. It always is, but like
Yes.
as far as judges go, and as far as like overall, like players go, I mean, was it? Because when I went, man, it's like everybody I played against, even the ones that absolutely annihilated me. I mean, everybody was just super nice, super awesome. So I mean, did you see any major like D bags basically? I was not by name, but like, was it a good was there a good vibe this year, or was it
Yeah, I
like
didn't have any issues. I watched one game on stream later where the two players were kind of calling each other cheaters during the game on the stream, live on stream.
ooh, that's not a good look.
Oh, I actually think I
No,
watched that. I think I saw that on YouTube.
yeah. And I watched because I was keenly interested in one of the particular armies that was playing. And I saw it both ways, but it wasn't a good look, especially on stream. And if you know you're going to be on stream and that's on the internet forever, be on your best behavior, please. I mean, you should be on your best behavior regardless because it's just a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it,
especially if you're going to bring yourself under scrutiny like that. Like,
yeah,
obviously, what you're doing is kind of broadcasted to it. That's kind of a
it's
weird mindset to have.
and it's a game that it's a weird competitive game because without the cooperation of your opponent, you can't finish it.
Yeah,
So you guys have to work together to get to the end of the game, even though you're trying to beat each other's brains in.
Yeah. Airman asked if Robin knows Necrons. Does he have any opinions on Star Shatter pre to post nerf?
I have played them twice competitively. Didn't have a problem beating them. Because really the only trick is you can advance and shoot, if I remember right, and you can go through some walls, right?
You get rerolls
Which,
one. I think they get rerolls of one to hit and rerolls of one to wound.
right. So I just used my pure strains and screened out the terrain so they could go through the wall, but there was nowhere for the vehicles to land. So I still kept them on the other side of the walls by just screening it out with pure strains. Um, Tried to give them nothing to shoot at much until it was my turn to drop and kill everything.
Yeah, it's crazy how
So
much movement. I've said this before on stream too. Like movement wins this game hands down. Like there is being able to utilize the rules against your opponent. When it comes to backing off like at 1.2 inches off of a wall in a piece of terrain. So they can't get in there, or 1.1, whatever it is. But
yeah, and Games Workshop made it abundantly clear that is their intent.
oh, about that type of play, or do you mean that specifically?
Unchargeable through walls. Yeah, because everybody was playing it differently. Like, well, this is just something they haven't clarified. And then they put an FAQ and said, nope, this is what we mean.
Well, so I remember. All right, so when 10th edition dropped, I was in Kuwait and I had nothing better to do at that moment, like on my free time when I wasn't working, than to basically just peruse everything and just read over everything. And I thought at
I
the
mean, you didn't
beginning,
have any important national defense things to do?
I said on my free time.
He clarified that. He put that in quotations.
No, totally not just hanging out in Kuwait. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right.
No, but I mean, on like literally, that was all. Like I was playing on TTS, with some friends back in the States and stuff, because I was like, man, when I come home, I want to hit the ground running. I want to do really well at LVO and blah 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 blah. I thought that at the beginning of 10th, they had gotten rid of they had made it easier to charge units that were hiding in terrain. Like you could, if you got to the wall of the terrain feature, you could still swing. If they were an inch away, you could swing at them.
That was the WTC rule that came out of Europe.
Oh, okay.
The WTC takes Games Workshop rules and they'll modify them to what they think is fair. So I always ask a tournament organizer, are we playing GW rules or WTC rules, or are we playing your house rules?
Mm. And if
So
Good
yeah,
clarification to have.
yeah, I was about to say, for asking for a friend that might be running a tournament soon, is it? I mean, does it? If you had a suggestion, because I know you run your own stuff too.
right.
Do you run strictly GW rules, or do you modify, or do you
Yeah.
use WTC?
I try to do GW rules except for ones that are vague, because most of your big tournaments are going to be GW rules. And it's just better for, our community to be learning the rules they're going to run into on the competitive scene more often. We're not really playing in Europe, so
Okay.
I want everybody to learn those rules and be comfortable with those rules. And back to your Star Shatter question for a minute. I was helping a guy build a Star Shatter list today. An up and coming competitive player in South Carolina, so look out for him. But he shows me his list. He's like, "What do you think?" And the first question I said was, "Well, you have a lot of killing power. Who's doing actions?" And he's like, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah, go back and do that." And I was like, "And you don't have any battle line units?" He's like, "Well, I don't need any battle line units." And I'm like, a lot of the missions give you buffs if you got a battle line unit. And
Yeah.
you can't even score banners without it.
Yeah, I think it's
So,
like 5 out of 10. I'm pretty sure have
yeah, I mean, some
buffs.
of those buffs are like, who cares? But when it matters, it matters. Like if you're playing the ritual and they can advance and do an action, it might win you the game.
Yeah, for
Or
sure. You'd rather have
are
it
you
and not
doing
need it than need it and not have it.
are you doing Scorched Earth, and it's the one where you can shoot and still do an action? So you're on an objective and you need to shoot at your opponent, but you also want to burn the objective and get those 5 points. So
Airman just responded, said, "Thank you. The list I just made that I was happy with had 0 battle line." Yeah, no, and I played some. I've
I
been
think
kind
the
of getting.
cheapest battle line is 5 immortals. So like at least have 5 immortals in there, so you're just not completely blanked on those missions.
Yeah, for sure. I think the list I have has witches, which is they're battle line, but they're not really battle line. When you really come down to it, there's no way I'm doing actions with Lilith.
Yeah, and I'm like, and what in your list are you going to send somewhere to do an action? Because everything in his list was shooty, shooty, shooty. I'm like, wow, it's super shooty list. Who's doing actions?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, these guys can do actions. I'm like, but you're not going to want to. You're not going to want to have that big point unit over in a corner doing an action. Their job is to go kill something.
Yep. That's where my mandrakes come in. 140 points of uppy downy. It's not 1,000 points on my list, but those are basically the main secondary grabbers. And I've heard people talk about. We have a person we know mutually that was going over one time a while back on stream. That was going over, like, well, if you have a 200-point unit shooting at a 100-point unit, it's not very efficient. And I'm, to me, if I'm playing against a Drukhari player and I'm playing like Death Guard or something, I will 100% spend like 500 points if I need to take out those two 70-point units, because that just stops Drukhari dead in their track with secondaries. So, it's like when people talk about like point per point, it's just,
Yeah.
I don't think that's
My target priority. I want to take away anything you have that's fast,
Yep.
and I want to take away anything you have that you use for actions. So now you have to take that killer unit and do an action, or you give up the points.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, John, you call it what?
Perceived versus like actual value, or value that you can't see, but it's there. It's not like defined by points; it's defined by actions.
Like when I play some kind of Imperial army and they have a Calidus, boy, that's why I want to get rid of that Calidus as fast as I can.
Yeah.
That up and down and that aura of extra CP, just get that headache off the table as quickly as I can.
Airman said I had flayed ones and scarabs for actions since I had things to give scarabs a 1 OC. I mean, I think if you have a plan for it, I mean, that's great. But then the only problem is if you lose the thing that gives them the OC, now you're up shit's creek.
Yeah, and the flayed ones are cheap and they can deep strike, and then if they die the next turn, whatever, they scored you your points. That's what I always say. I'll trade units for points every time, because at the end of the game, it's the person with the most points that wins.
Is the thing that gives the OC to the scarabs, is that a unit or a command? Is that a command point? I
think it's it's an aura from something.
Yeah. If that goes down, yep, there you go. I had just mentioned that you run tournaments. Do you have anything do you have anything upcoming soon that you'd like to put out there?
Is it the plug part of the show?
Oh, dude, it's always the plug part of the show, man.
Plug part, we always plugging.
I mean, I don't want to end anything, but
March. And then Easter weekend, we have our GT in coordination with Away Games. And we have a ticket to Nova, and we're working on the golden ticket to Atlanta for that event. And we're limiting it to 40 people. So 1 in 40 chance of winning yourself a ticket to a super major. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, for sure. When did you say when did you say that was?
That one I think is 19th and 20th of April. It's Easter weekend, which is not ideal, but that's when it worked out on the calendar, where we're trying not to get in the way of other big tournaments.
Gotcha.
But who doesn't like Easter week in Myrtle Beach?
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Very true.
Is Nerd Bar the one in Myrtle Beach? No, it is Game Bunker. But yes, it was Nerd Bar. Is it still Nerd Bar? No, it's Game Bunker now, right?
The store is Game Bunker. Nerd Bar has become online and our team. And we just built our studio out. So we have 3 sets. And when we go live online, some of the stuff will be like Nerd Bar Live, sit and chat about the meta, stuff like that. But the store is Game Bunker, and a lot of the branding is switched to Game Bunker because I have partners now, and I'm unmarried, but some of them aren't. Some of them are. And they felt like the word bar maybe had some negative connotations in the community.
Really?
So
okay, yeah.
They're like, do I really want my kids hanging out in a bar? I'm like, well, they go to ice cream bars, don't they? And they're like, oh, whatever. But it was just easy not to argue with them. I'm like, fine, we'll switch it up.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, Bunker. Never mind. I'm too much of the minutia. It's like Bunker. You think of people who are like doomsday prepping. I don't want your kids to be doomsday prepping.
The first time that argument was presented to me to change the names, I kind of did a whole stand-up routine. They were like, people might think this and this and this, and we had a lady walk in, and she was very Christian, and she's like, "Oh, I'm not," and I said, "Hello," and I walked over to the product line. I'm like, "Demons, space Nazis."
Like, I mean, it's true.
Something here to offend everybody. If you come in here and you're offended, you just weren't a customer to begin with.
No, yeah, and that's the thing about the game too. It's like there is representation for everybody, and there's something for everybody to hate in 40K.
Sure.
So it's one of those games that's just it's all over the place. But
everyone loves the Tau.
Nobody loves Tau.
Everyone hates everyone else.
Nobody.
The fish people are great. We love them.
Nobody loves Tau.
We love
Um,
those guys.
That
does
was my first army.
Oh, it's mine too.
Yeah,
Ah.
and then they became so broken I had to sell them because it was just no fun to play them.
Yeah, I felt that way about Eldar in, I want to say, I think it was 6th edition when you had the Jetseer Council and they could continuously buff themselves where you could get like down to a 2+ invul with the entire group. And it was like just putting out
Yeah,
all kinds of damage. It was impossible to kill them. I was
yeah, no
like,
fun. Just
yeah,
no fun to play.
yeah, no, definitely not fun.
Yeah, they called it the leaf blower list with the towel, where you just castle up and just blast everybody off the board in 2 turns.
They're back to Triptides now. I saw them.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I played against Tau a lot back in the day, and that's part of why I hate Tau is just because it was back then. It was just the gun lines. It was impossible, especially playing Drukari back then with all the low toughness and dying to a stiff fart. It
So
was
when the Nerd Bar team played in the team championships in Dallas, um, our last round we're basically playing Team Canada with Scary, and
oh nice.
they've got a guy with a towel list, and he's got 2 of the big flyers in his list, and nobody wanted to play that list. And I was like, "Well, what's so scary about the list?" And they're like, "Oh, those big flyers have like 4 really strong anti-tank shots." And I'm like, "Is that it?" "Yeah, that's it." And I'm like, "I'll play them. I don't care about anti-tank shots. I'm all infantry." So we're setting up, and he's putting them on the board. He's like, "You know about these?" I'm like, "Yeah, you got those 4 really strong anti-tank shots." And he's like, "Yeah, and 40 anti-infantry shots." And I immediately turned around and flipped off my entire team.
They conveniently left that part out. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
nothing to
they
be worried
completely
about.
left that part out. I was like, "Oh, F all you guys."
they, they were looking for a sacrifice, and
Yeah.
he
Well, I
baited
still
you.
played him to a tie, so
Yeah,
so we won that. We won that round.
Oh, you tied him.
Yeah, I tied him, and then we beat the Canadian team as a team. But Scary just smashed whoever he paired into.
Dude, Scar, he is so good. I
Yeah,
that guy is on another level, man. He makes things and
we had a
and he plays things that are just it's so wonky to me. I'm just like, dude,
yeah,
what?
we had a moment at the Dallas tournament though, because so there were guys much younger than me on the team. They brought a laptop, they put a matrix together, they had all these win rate probabilities of different matchups. And every time we would pair into another team, they were going through the matrix to figure out the ideal matchups. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, I'll 20-0 this guy, I'll score 18 here." And then they'd look at me and they're like, "Just don't lose by a lot." And then I would go win my game and then say, "Did you 20-0?" "Nah, I lost." And that was going on the whole weekend. So Drew will tell you, Drew from Charleston, we were like the 2 old guys on the team carrying the team the whole way through because they kept giving us the terrible matchups and we kept winning them. Um, so at the end, I'm standing there with Scary's team and his young guys and our young guys are doing their thing with the laptops, and I'm like, "Scary, has any of this actually worked out according to their matrix?" And he goes, "None of it. What about you?" I'm like, "Absolutely nothing." Like all weekend, I've been saying, let's just take the 8 cards and just randomly draw them and play that way. He goes, "2, but they won't do it." Like,
Yeah,
"I'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. Let's go." And he's like, "Right?" And I'm like, "But you keep winning your matches." He's like, "Yes." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's the old guys that actually know how to play. We don't need the laptops and the matrix and all the little fancy math. Just play Warhammer."
yeah,
Trying to turn it into football.
Yeah.
With
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
were,
oh,
they,
gotta go for the first down. You gotta play this guy.
yeah, no, it was like, just try not to lose by a lot. "Okay. How'd you do?" "I won." "How'd you do?" "I lost." "I thought you said you're going to 20-0 him." "He's better than I thought he was." But look, it's team tournaments are fun, but I don't like the scoring format in itself. I would love to lobby for them to change the scoring method because the team tournament incentivizes you to curb stomp your opponent. You Winning isn't enough. You want to win by a lot
yeah,
because the final scoring is based on point differentials, and you don't know how your other teammates are going. So I find myself in a team tournament apologizing to my opponent. "I'm really sorry I'm beating you so badly, but I have to because I don't know what my teammates are doing. So I'm sorry this is going to be like 100 to 35 because that's not normally how I like to play. I'd rather win by 5 or 10 points and we have fun.
Right.
Um, Plus, in that scenario, you can have 3 wins and 5 losses and still win the match for your team
Right. Yeah, because you scored. Yeah, because you scored higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of the points, right? And you're like, how is that even fair? I mean, they won 5 out of 8 matches and lost the round because the 3 guys that lost really lost.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah. And
I would rather see wins be dominant over points, and then maybe points as a backup to settle ties.
yeah. Yeah, that would make sense for sure. Yeah, and it's unfortunate. We were supposed to be going to I mean, I don't know if it's going on still, but we were going to be doing a tournament ourselves, a team tournament ourselves. I was actually going to be me, John, and Shane we're going to be playing this weekend, but some things popped up. I'm not sure it's able to happen this weekend, but that would be the first team tournament I would have ever gone to. I've done a doubles tournament, but I've never done a team tournament. So I was kind of excited about it, but yeah, we'll get another one.
8-man teams is it's just hard to get 8 people to agree to get off the same weekend and buy plane tickets, and
Yeah, that's a
it's
lot of planning.
it's hard. I mean, 5-man teams are okay, but 8-man's like, whew. They're like, hey, are you coming to this tournament? I'm like, can I find 7 guys that can get off work and fly to Nevada? I don't know.
Dude, I have found when it comes to this, and I know you and I talked about this on the phone before. And real quick, I don't want to forget. There was a question here. Does Game Bunker allow 3D printed models in RTTs?
Yes. RTTs, you could just about do anything as long as it's reasonable. I mean, don't I guess I can say somebody come in one time with a Darth Vader as a knight, and I was like, "Man, just borrow one of my knights." He's
Well,
like, "What?" I'm like, "It's just your opponents are going to look at that and go, this isn't immersive at all."
that's I just watched a video on that where it's like somebody brought like a racers as guardsmen or something crazy like that, and they're like,
Yeah.
"You cool with it?" You forget what they are, and it's like, is that something that just fell on the table while we
So
were playing?
so that's what we ask. Like, you can proxies are fine, 3D prints are fine. Just make sure it's obvious what your guns are. Make sure the base size and height is correct. And be clear with your opponent what it is. And
Uh,
even in our GTs, you can have some 3D printed models. We've got one guy who has an entirely 3D printed Tyranid army, but they're all accurate and well painted. What we don't allow you is to come in and try to sell 3D printed models to our customers because we don't want to lose our license from Games Workshop to sell things.
um, correct me if I'm wrong, but I actually just sent you guys a picture of what I'm sending them because you guys can't see me, unfortunately. But we're talking about proxying models, and you brought up Darth Vader, so I've got this little what's it? It's a little alarm clock stormtrooper. Like, hey,
This is
Yes,
a night.
I
This is
see
a
it.
night.
freaking. I thought Games Workshop allowed you to do printed models if you could provide the actual that you bought the model, like if you had it with you.
So some tournaments do that. You're not going to do that at a Games Workshop tournament more than likely. Like if you go play at a GW Open in Seattle, they're probably not going to be cool with that. But Las Vegas Open would be 100% cool with it as long as you've got the other model to put on the table if your opponent complains.
I got you.
But Games Workshop's rule is 100% Games Workshop product.
Yeah,
I
and you
had
can have
one
what, like
guy,
you can have 50% of the model 3D printed, like because you can add on or you can move,
you can
like
add
change.
on some bits, but not, I don't even think it's 50%. I think it's a little higher than that. But we had one guy kind of challenge him on that. It was pretty hilarious. He took he saved all of his sprues. He plays orcs. He saved all of his orc sprues and he melted them down and formed it into some kind of he tried to make it into an orc truck. And then he shows up and they're like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's 100% Games Workshop."
It's
Well, I
gotta
mean,
keep
he's
your
not
lawyer.
lying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was all made from Games Workshop sprues.
That's
They're like,
hilarious.
okay.
Well, John, do you have any more questions? Because honestly, man, this was super enlightening when it comes to Genestealers, man. Because as fascinated as I am with their lore, I just have not played them enough. And honestly, man, Robin, I would love to get in a game with you. Are you going to be playing in your upcoming one that you've got on the 15th?
If we have spots, I can jump in and play. The goal is to sell enough tickets where, I'm just TOing.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and usually if I'm playing, unless it's, like Eddie or Shane or Drew, I'm just gonna kind of more play a coaching game. But if I draw like Eddie, I'm like, oh, it's on, man. My goal is to kick your teeth in.
Yeah, it's
It's
on.
on, man.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say
Or
one
same.
question. Oh, sorry.
Sure, go ahead.
Oh no, you finish the thought. This is just a
I was
question
just
in
gonna say
general.
same with Drew and like Shane, but anybody else, I'm gonna be more like helping you beat me. This is what don't do that. You need to do this instead, and this is why.
Yeah. The For final closing questions, you mentioned it earlier. You were talking about how your kind of philosophy of play was first 1,000 points is how are they scoring points, and then the last 1,000 killing stuff. Do you have any other advice like that? Because as a newer player, it can be kind of overwhelming as far as like list building, and it's like, do I have enough of what's doing? Do you have any other kind of like rules of thumb that you like to
Uh,
go by?
yeah. In fact, I'll run a tournament seminar I do every couple of months. You come in here, it's about 3 hours, and I start you from list building through what you need to do every turn of a game. So the advice there is have a plan for every turn for your units. Know what all of your units are going to do every turn ahead of time.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, your opponent's going to interact with you and change those plans. No game goes perfectly to plan. But as long as you go into that tournament, I know what every unit I have is supposed to do every turn. You play faster and you don't have as many surprises because at least half the time you're going to follow your plan. Like
Yeah.
these guys are just going to sit on my objective and do this. These guys are going to be positioned to score containment in case I draw that on turn 1 or 2. They're already in position to do it, and that's 6 points. That's awesome. These guys are sitting in deep strike in case I draw established locus or behind enemy lines or something like that. Um, these guys are going to move out and try to move block my opponent in some important part of the table. And as long as you have a plan for every unit for every round, you're already way ahead of most competitive players.
That's great advice. It's one of those things that, like, when you think about it, it makes a ton of sense. But in practice, it's definitely practice is key with something like that, and like knowing how, like having a game plan and then actually playing it out.
Oh yeah, it changes immediately
Yeah.
almost. What I like to do when it's my turn, my command phase, I go, okay, and I really do this in front of my opponent. I rub my face and I go, all right, what are my top 3 priorities this turn? That's got to die. That's got to die, and I need to get some units over here. And then I do my plan.
So what
And then
what
step
you're
one,
doing?
that die, plans in place. Step two, that die, plans in place. Step three, you move block me. All right, now what do I do?
Yeah, and I think part of what you're talking about is something we've talked about before, which is playing the player. Where you are you talking about where you act like you're a little stressed out when when you're when it's your turn?
No, that's not what that is. That,
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's not leadership. That's just me trying to clear my thoughts
Ah, okay.
and then make sure I focus on the top 3 things that are important that turn. Um, Sometimes my opponent will have such a great turn, and I'll look at the board state and I'll say, "Keep the clock on me. I need to take a bathroom break." And while I'm walking to the bathroom and back, I'm like, "Okay, what do I really need to do this turn to have myself in a position for the next turn? Because this turn is turbo fucked." But I
Turbo
need to
fuck.
get
Turbo
myself,
fucked.
yeah, but I got to get in position for the end of the game. So what do I need to do now? And I'm talking to myself as I'm walking to the bathroom and back. And then I get back and I'm like, okay, let's go. So, don't be afraid to take a little bathroom break when you need to just think rationally and calmly, and not because if you're not, you'll make a mistake.
Airman asks, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead.
When is your masterclass going on Patreon?
So far, it's just in the shop, but like I said, our streaming studio has been built now, and when we do our streams, we're not going to charge for that. We're just going to be giving you pointers while we play.
Yeah.
But in the shop, it's like every 2 months. It's about 3 hours. I tell you to bring 1,000 points, bring your app, bring your codex, and we go from beginning of end, from prepping for a tournament all the way down to what to do at the end of a match into tournament courtesies. And we have a small fee for that, and for that you usually get like a dice tray and some dice with the Game Bunker logo on it or something like that. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, you get something for the money besides 3 hours of me just walking you through how to play in a tournament. And we even include stuff like take a shower, use deodorant. Um, you're going to be
Stuff
in a
that would
room with
probably
like
be common sense, hopefully.
you're going to be in a room with 80 other people, and by the end of the day, it's getting hot in the room. You know how to play by intent correctly. Um, how to know when somebody's using play by intent to game you, that kind of stuff.
Play. What do you
Never
mean
be
by what do you mean by play by intent?
So to get through the game, playing by intent is a valuable tool where you can say something like, well, at the beginning of a game, what is your threat range, World Eater player, on your turn one? How far can your army go? And I don't mean just your movement and your advance, but do you have any other scout moves and any other jank to move twice and all that kind of stuff? And once they tell me that, I'll pre-measure it and make sure so if I place my model here, there's no way you can charge me turn one. Agreed?
Yep.
And if they go agreed, we have sped up the game because now my opponent doesn't waste any time trying to figure out how to charge me because I've already shown them it's not possible.
Yep.
So that's part of playing by intent. Another part is I'm deep striking 9 inches. I set my first model down 9 inches, and then I'll set the next model 3 inches away, so it's within 12 inches. And I'm like, all right, now as long as I place all my models in between here, everybody's in rapid fire range. That kind of thing.
Little tricks to speed up the game and
just tools to speed up the game. That's right. It's nothing else. But there are people who say they play by intent and they game you. Oh, I meant to do this. Well, that's not really playing by intent. That's you forgot to do something, and now you're asking for a take back. And we're fine with take backs if it's in the same phase.
And if it's in good spirit, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you haven't gotten any real additional information at that point, then yeah, okay, fine, whatever. But I deep struck over here. I'm done with my movement phase. I shot with that unit. I didn't really kill the thing I wanted to kill. Oh, I meant to deep strike over here. Well, I'm sorry. You already shot with them. We're already in the shooting phase.
Yeah.
And what you intended to do didn't work out. Now you have that information that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, which I'm super guilty of sometimes, man, because like when we play, I really haven't played, I think I played maybe 2 or 3 games since we started streaming that are off stream. And when you're streaming, especially when you're doing like the setup I have where, we have multiple cameras around the room and, you're having to pay attention to chat, and then you've got to, like make sure that you're on the right camera. Is the dice camera pulled up, all that stuff. I'll go back and see that I forgot to pull my mandrakes out, or I forgot to,
I've left units in my box before, and it's after turn 3, and they're like, "Well, they're dead," and I'm like, "Well, good thing I'm Genestealer Cult. Bring them back anyway." I'll tell you a funny play by intent story that happened in a GT this past year. Earlier in the year, I hand my opponent a small 10-man unit of models. And I'm like, please put them behind this crate. And my intent is you won't be able to overwatch them with your flamers. Only this one guy with a bolter will be able to see them. He's like, okay. And he places all the models for me. And then he goes, all right, I'm going to overwatch him. I'm like, really? With the bolter? And he's like, well, these dudes with flamers can see him. And I was like, dude, we just discussed my intent was for you to place them so that your flamers can't see him. And he goes, well, I don't think that's possible. I'm like, well, then you should have said that. Rather than placing the models and then wanting to fire Overwatch, I would have come over.
You want your
right?
guys to die by flamer. That was your
So
intent, to die.
yeah, so a judge was walking by. I was like, "Hey, judge, we need a little help here." And he goes, "What's up?" And my opponent goes, "Yeah, he asked me to place these models and said his intent was to not be seen by these flamers, so I couldn't overwatch him." He goes, "All right." And he goes, "And I placed the models here, and I don't think it's possible." And the judge looked at him and goes, "Well, he asked you to do that, and you agreed to do it by placing them, and then you tried to overwatch him with the flamers." He said, "Yes." And then the judge just nudged my models back and said, "Now you can't see him. Play on."
How
And the dude
shitty.
was like,
That's
the
a
dude was like,
weird
"What?" I'm like,
interaction.
"Come on, man. That that was wrong, right?" And he was like, all right, my bad."
Come on, man.
That's such a weird, like, it's kind of interactions like that that's like, is this real right now? Did you really
That
just
was
do that
just
to me?
funny. I mean, he knew he was losing the game, but that was just like, are you serious?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
rough.
just say up front, "Hey, I don't think it's possible. You're welcome to come around here and show me I'm wrong." Okay, that's fine. Or I may put him somewhere else. If you say it's not possible, let's just speed the game along. I'll put him somewhere else. But
Yeah.
once you take my models and place them for me, and then decide to overwatch me with the flamers, and kind of like, I'm confused as to what's going on right now.
He
That
just puts them on top of the crate. He's like, all right, I did the best I could.
Yeah,
They're
I,
clearly
I,
all visible.
yeah, yeah. No, you
that's
put me in charge of this. I'm not a
Yeah,
good player.
yeah. My brain don't work good. This is how it's gonna be.
that's
Yeah, that's
actually
kind of a joke at the beginning of the game. I played my intent to you. Yes, I intend to beat you. All right, let's
Yeah.
go.
that is hilarious. Like, all right, I don't want you to see him. He just makes it work. All right, now I'm
Right.
overwatching. Like,
They're all visible. You're like, well, you told
Yeah,
me to place them.
yeah, that was pretty funny. I think he was a little embarrassed afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, okay, that was kind of silly of me."
yeah, of course. That's
But
ridiculous,
the
dude.
judge's reaction was funnier. He was like, and he just moved the models back, and he goes, "There you go. Now you can't see him."
Oh, that's funny.
But intent helps. Like if you're playing like Thousand Suns with all those big flamers, that one character's got the big double flamer that just kills everybody, and you got to kill that unit. But you're like, "Look, my intent is to have my entire unit get line of sight on this one guy with the bolter, or this one guy with one flamer, but none of them are going to be able to see this other guy for Overwatch." And then I go, "Help me line them up so that that intent is accomplished." Now I've made my opponent, he's on my team now because he's helping me get it lined up, even though it's to his detriment. But I give you the same courtesy in return when you're moving against me. Hey, I don't want to take all that Overwatch from your 20 neophytes with all the rerolls. All right, then you want to be here so you have just an angle on this one guy. And then I'm not going to fire Overwatch with the one guy and you can start blasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add to what you were saying, kind of going off on a tangent here, John, when you were like, you say that and it sounds like common sense. We did when I first started streaming, we did kind of a just basic tactics and strategy video where I was talking about most dedicated first. Like you're like basically you want to get the most out of your shooting. So if you have something, like if you've got like a predator that's, right here that can see 2 units and you've got a predator over here that can see, 1 unit, you want to shoot the one that can see only one first so you can let the other one shoot, it has options. I call them flex units, but yeah, that's like my own
Yeah,
lingo.
you're just doing target priority to make sure you don't shoot yourself out of a target.
Right, right. But like some of those things, when we were talking about them, we had some comments that was like, yeah, I mean, and I was saying, I mean, I know this is common sense and I feel bad for saying it because I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but it's funny because there's things that people do and that we say that it seems like common sense, but when you're playing, it just like, I feel like there's a little bit of, you get nervous while
For,
you're playing and you're
yeah.
not really
For
paying
me, it's
attention.
brain lag.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it every game. I'll absolutely forget something I should have remembered, and then to kick myself. And because uh, I like to play at a higher competitive level, I'll just penalize myself. My opponent will be like, "Oh no, you can take that back," and I'm like, "If I take it back, I'll never learn."
Yep.
So yeah,
And that's the best way to learn is to screw yourself. Because you're
well,
like,
That's
well, not going to do that again.
right,
that sounds
right,
appropriate.
Well,
yeah,
I don't mean literally. but you know, I
No,
guess.
he meant literally. Every time he messes up, this is what he does now.
Yeah.
But well, it was great talking to you, Robin. It always is, man. I always enjoy our conversations. I'm definitely excited about trying to. My intent right now, I have permission from the wife. So we are gonna be coming down as of right now, unless something happens. We're gonna be coming down, and we'll be coming down that probably that Friday. So I'll be staying Friday and Saturday. So if you're open for a game Friday night,
Want a warm up game Friday night? Come
yeah,
on, man.
yeah, for sure. And just to reiterate, in case there's some people on here that weren't on here, this is Robin Roberts. He is a store owner down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I just put his website up there, and I put it in here because it was on your website. Free shipping on any orders over $145, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just want to
Plus,
make
if
sure.
you use a Warhammer Man code, I think you get 15% off too. So,
There you go. Very cool.
so
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, find that code, that Warhammer Man code. Go
Um,
to one of his videos, and he'll give you the code.
yeah, and Warhammer Man he's on YouTube, right? He's not on Twitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And yeah, and real quick, I'm going to do our own plugin. We have a tournament that GT that we're going to be doing in October. It's the last weekend of October. Right now, it is up and running on the website. I don't have, because we're going to be doing 40K Kill Team and Magic the Gathering. I don't have the Kill Team up yet, and I don't have the Magic the Gathering up yet. But the 40K tickets are for sale. So go ahead and check them out. There's different tiers that you can get to. So with that being said, John, do you got anything, brother?
I got nothing.
Well, hey,
Just
let us know.
this-
We'll make some stuff to your tournament, some prize support.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Thank you. But anyway, it was certainly fun hanging out. Nope. Shit. Sorry, I was gonna raid somebody, but sorry, give me 1 second.
All right. Well, I'll see you guys later. Maybe depends on what happens with this box.
Oh, is that the Hellraiser box?
Yeah.
It is, dude. I want it so
That is
bad.
dope.
So far, so good.
Yeah, don't have any spikes come out into the hand. I feel like that would hurt really
No.
bad.
If I just disappear from the stream, though, you'll know.
Yeah, actually, we were talking a little bit a second ago about he's actually a horror film fan. So we are going to be, yeah, we might be doing a paint stream on Friday, man. If you want to jump on the stream with us, and well, I mean, I don't mean like how we're doing it right now, but I mean, unless you want to, that's fine too. But we always talk about horror stuff. That's kind of our thing. We do horror games and we talk about horror movies when we do our paint streams.
So one of my other partners in the store is a much bigger horror fan than me. His knowledge and trivia is much deeper than mine.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend you have him. He's also one of the shop's commission painters.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
I'll
he's much better at painting and much better at horror trivia. I mean, I can start a half a line. Like, remember the movie where this guy said, and I'll start like 3 words in, and he'll be like, "Oh, that's so and so from 1970." Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, "What do you know all this?"
It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll definitely get offline with you about that because I'd love to have him on, especially if we're going to be doing a paint stream.
Scott Young. He's a good painter and definitely a horror buff.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, it was fun. We should be playing or doing something on Friday. I appreciate everybody coming out, and we'll see you guys on the next one. All right.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Why is it? There it goes. Okay.
It did the thing.
It did the thing. All right.